So, you ever get that feeling you're kind of late to the party on a book everyone's talking about?
Oh, definitely. That cultural buzz.
Exactly. Well, today we're tackling one of those, Sally Rooney's Normal People. Gonna dive deep,
Mm-hmm.
not just, a plot summary, but really try to get under the skin of it, the themes, why it hit such a nerve.
Right. Figure out what the big deal is. We've been digging into the summaries, the critiques.
Yep, all of it. Our mission, to distill it all for you. And the obvious starting point has to be Connell and Marianne, right?
Absolutely. That connection they have.
It's so unique from the get-go. High school, this intense bond, but they pretend. Well, they act like they barely know each other.
And that initial secrecy, that performance, it just hangs over everything that comes after, doesn't it?
Totally.
I mean, think about it. Connell's the popular guy, the athlete. And he's deliberately playing down any link to Marianne, who's seen as, well, an outsider.
Yeah.
It's more than just being awkward teenagers. It shows you right there how social status works, how it even dictates intimacy early on.
It really does. And then, bang, a year later, they're at Trinity College, and it's completely flipped.
The whole dynamic shifts.
Suddenly, Marianne's navigating the social scene. Seems pretty comfortable, actually.
Old Connell. He's kind of on the outside looking in. Shy, struggling to find his place.
But even with those roles reversed and, other people coming into their lives, other relationships,
You just keep coming back to each other,
it's like this magnetic pull. You can't ignore it.
which makes you ask, what is it? What's the fundamental thing they get from each other?
Good question.
The analyses we looked at suggest it's not just like simple attraction. It's something about their vulnerabilities
Mm-hmm.
and their strengths kind of clicking,
Yeah.
almost like they see the real person that maybe their social circles just don't.
And they're both carrying some heavy stuff, aren't they? Marianne's issues, the self-destruction, that awful family situation.
Yeah.
It's there early. We find out she actually told Connell about the abuse back in high school, and he tried to be there for her, even though he was worried about his friends, the teasing.
Right.
It shows there was something real there, deep down, even if they couldn't admit it out loud.
That early confidence she places in him, it's foundational, really. He becomes this first refuge for her.
For someone who sees her.
Exactly. Sees her even when his own social anxiety, his mates are pushing him to look away. And it also hints subtly at the class thing,
No, for sure.
Connell's working class background, wanting to fit in.
Yeah.
It creates this barrier, doesn't it,
Mm.
to fully owning that connection with Marianne, who's from this wealthy but isolated background.
And Connell's got his own battles, finding his place, figuring out who he is, loads of insecurity, and yeah, a lot seems tied to those class differences.
Definitely.
Then you've got the whole on-again, off-again thing through college, casual hookups, then nothing.
That back and forth.
Marianne goes abroad, has that relationship with Luca, which seems to clarify for her what isn't real, what she doesn't want.
Right. It highlights the lack of authenticity she finds elsewhere compared to, well, whatever it is she has with Connell.
And meanwhile, Connell's getting into writing, trying to make sense of his own world.
It's interesting how their individual growth, their self-discovery, seems to happen alongside the relationship, but also often because of it.
Yeah, catalyzed by it.
Those times apart, they seem necessary. They grow, they reflect, and then that changes how they come back together. Like Marianne's experience with Luca, it's such a contrast to Connell.
So true. And when she does come back, that spark just flares up again. Leads to some really intense moments. Like that scene where Connell confronts her brother, threatens him, actually.
Powerful moment.
It shows how protective he's become, right? A big shift from being scared to even be seen with her in high school.
It really is. He's stepping up, actively intervening in her life in a way he hadn't before.
Yeah.
It shows his commitment deepening, maybe. But it also just throws that lack of family support for Marianne into really sharp relief.
And highlights those social and economic gaps again. They're always there.
They're not just background noise, are they?
No way.
Yeah.
Marianne's wealth, Connell's working class roots, it actively shapes how they interact, how they see themselves, especially Connell.
That feeling of not quite belonging in her world.
Yeah, that sense of inadequacy.
And that's a big part of the book's commentary, isn't it?
Yeah.
On Ireland, on class. It's not just their personal story.
Right.
It's about how these bigger structures, class, privilege, weave their way into our most intimate relationships, affect our self-worth.
And the themes that come out of that are just, well, they feel very real. Young love, but messy. So messy.
Ebb and flow of it.
The intimacy, the miscommunications that can just blow things up.
Oh, the miscommunication is huge.
And that search for identity tied up with class, background, Connell feeling unworthy, Marianne feeling isolated because of her family.
It's all tangled together.
Plus the mental health aspect. That feels important too. Yeah. Connell actually going to therapy, Marianne facing her past trauma.
Yeah, the book doesn't shy away from that. These are pretty universal struggles, just seen through Connell and Marianne's very specific lens.
Mm-hmm.
It confronts how vulnerable you are in your early 20s, trying to build connections. And Connell seeking therapy, that's a significant step in the narrative, destigmatizing it.
Definitely. Okay, but we have to talk about the writing style.
Ah, yes. Rooney style.
That cool, sparse detachment people mention, no quotation marks, dropped commas sometimes. Those long run-on sentences.
It's very distinctive.
Some people find it pulls them right in, makes it immediate. But others find that lack of punctuation, well, it adds to that intellectual vibe, maybe.
It's a very conscious choice, I think. No quotes means dialogue and internal thought just kind of blend together.
Yeah, you're right inside their heads.
Gives you this really intimate perspective. But maybe, at the same time, that slight emotional distance some readers feel. It's a strange effect.
It is. And look, the reaction to the book wasn't universal praise, was it?
No, definitely not. Quite divided, actually.
Some critics felt it was too focused on, like, the worries of a certain privileged urban group.
Lacking self-awareness about that privilege, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe. And that the secondary characters felt a bit thin.
Huh.
And the whole class difference thing, maybe not explored as deeply as it could have been.
Mm-hmm. That criticism is out there.
Some reviewers basically said the main characters were just too self-absorbed. Kind of pitiful, even.
And those are points worth thinking about, absolutely. They raise questions about the novel's focus, its engagement with, wider social realities.
Right.
There were those comparisons people made to Salinger, to Plath, but with the critique that Rooney's work maybe lacks that deep, raw longing for connection you find in them.
Interesting.
And maybe it's more about surface anxieties, like FOMO or social status, rather than something deeper.
That's a tough critique. But despite all that, clearly so many readers connected with it.
Oh, massively. Especially, I think, people who've been in those intense will they, won't they kind of relationships.
Yeah, that push and pull between Connell and Marianne, it just feels familiar to a lot of people.
I think it comes down to how honestly it portrays intimacy, how hard it is to really understand someone, to communicate properly, even when you care deeply.
Mm-hmm.
They make mistakes, they hurt each other, but that emotional core, it resonates. If you've been through something similar, you recognize it.
And then there's the ending. Or lack of a neat ending.
Very ambiguous.
Connell's off to New York for the MFA, Marianne's staying in Dublin. There's acceptance there, isn't there?
Yeah, a recognition of what they meant to each other.
How much they change each other's lives, whatever happens next. It's sad, but hopeful. Sort of. Leaves a lot hanging.
That open ending is quite powerful, I think. It avoids tying things up too neatly.
Like real life.
Exactly.
Mm.
It reflects how relationships often don't have clear resolutions.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how some connections stick with you, even if you go separate ways. What makes a bond truly meaningful?
And those comparisons to other books, One Day, Pride and Prejudice, Salinger, Plath, they're interesting markers.
Help place it in tradition.
Yeah. Rooney shares some themes, obviously, but
Yeah.
that cool intellectual style does feel different. Maybe, like those critics said, it sacrifices some of that raw emotion you get with, say, Plath.
It helps you see what's similar and what's uniquely Rooney. That tone. It's a strength for some readers, offering as a sharp observation, but maybe a drawback for others who want more overt emotional depth.
So, wrapping this up, we've really dug into normal people, this like 5-year journey of Marianne and Connell.
Mm-hmm.
Their super complicated relationship playing out against these shifting social scenes in Ireland, shaped by class, family, growing up, all that messy human stuff.
Yeah.
For me, the big takeaways are definitely those shifting power dynamics between them, how much their backgrounds mattered, that unique writing style, and just how differently people reacted to it all.
Absolutely. It's a book that doesn't give easy answers. Makes you think about connection, about how society shapes us, about how we figure out who we are.
It really does, which leaves me wondering, for you listening, when you think about Marianne and Connell, this intense connection they have despite everything, what do you think is the strongest thing that binds people, even across those big divides like class or background?
That's a good question.
Or maybe thinking about the criticisms about privilege, about mental health portrayal, What role, what responsibility do you think fiction actually has? Can it, or should it, always authentically represent these really complex social issues?
Lots to chew on there.
Definitely some food for thought. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.